Ladies and gentlemen, sit with this for a moment. You are both the jail and the key. In this world, you may think your enemy is outside. Your circumstances, society, the people around you. But if you sit quietly and watch closely, you will see it's not the world that stops you. It is you, always you, against yourself. Every morning when you wake up, there are two of you, one who wants to rise and one who wants 5 more minutes, one who dreams big and one who doubts, one who says, I will, and the other who whispers, maybe not today." So many people think life is a battlefield. Yes, it is, but not out there. The real battle is within. You are not fighting people, you are fighting your patterns, your conditioning, your comforts, your compulsions, your laziness, your fears, your anger, and the worst part, they all wear your face. Now tell me, if you were a stranger looking at your own life, would you say that you are helping yourself or hurting yourself? You say, I want peace. But then you pick the same fights, repeat the same emotions. You say, I want growth, but you defend your limits like a fortress. You say, I want joy, but you carry your past like a wound you refuse to let heal. This is not a punishment. This is an invitation. Life is asking you, will you go on like this? Or will you step aside and stop being in your own way? There is no external force holding you back. That is stronger than the inner one pulling you down. You see, victory doesn't come when you defeat the world. Victory comes the day the real you rises above the old you. You sit still and say, enough, no more being against myself. When that happens, life will no longer feel like a fight because the war within will be over. There is a war that most people never speak of, not because it is not happening, but because it happens so quietly, so constantly that we become numb to its presence. And in that numbness, we begin to live as if it's not even there, when in truth every decision, every hesitation, every rise and every fall is simply the echo of a battle being fought not outside on a field, but inside the folds of our own mind, where thoughts are weapons and emotions are wounds we never learned to treat. This battle is not between good and evil as we were taught in stories, but between clarity and confusion, between the part of us that knows and the part of us that doubts, between the urge to become something more and the pull to remain exactly as we are. And this friction is not dramatic, like in the movies, it is subtle like a whisper in a storm, yet it guides the course of entire lives without a single scream being heard. You wake up and feel it not in the loud things, but in the pause. Before you get up in the way you check your phone hoping for something you can't define, in the reluctance to face the day with open eyes, because deep inside there is something telling you to move forward and something else holding your ankle from beneath the water of your own unconscious. Nobody else sees this fight, and that is what makes it so dangerous, because when you battle another person, there is an audience, there are rules, there is at least some recognition. But when you battle yourself, there is only silence, and silence can be the loudest enemy if you do not know how to sit with it and listen. All your excuses, all your distractions, all your patterns of delay are not habits. They are defense mechanisms built by the old version of you to protect you from discomfort. But now that you are trying to grow, those same mechanisms have become chains, and it is painful to admit that. You build them yourself with your own hands, with your own thoughts, and now you must break them with the same tools. The fear you feel when you are about to take a step, the voice that says you are not enough, the sensation that others are ahead of you, that time is slipping through your fingers, these are not signs to stop, but signs that the old self is resisting death. And the new self is demanding breath, and it is you. In this moment that you must choose whether to stay in the comfort of your past or walk into the fire of your future. You think you are tired because of work or people or stress, but the deeper exhaustion comes from constantly wrestling with yourself, with pretending to be fine when you are not, with holding yourself back, while acting like it's someone else's fault, with carrying identities you no longer believe in, just to keep everyone else comfortable while you yourself are shrinking inside. So the real battle is not about winning or losing, it is about becoming awake enough to see that the only enemy who has ever truly stood in your way is the one wearing your face. And the only way to end the war is not through force or escape, but through fierce honesty and the gentle courage to finally stand on your own side. Let me know if you'd like this as audio narration or formatted for visual media. Course, here is a self-sabotage, a silent killer written in 8 introspective paragraphs, each a never-ending sentence flowing in a calm, reflective tone, designed to provoke awareness and internal silence. You do not see it when it begins, because it wears a kind face. It sounds like reason, feels like safety that arrives not as an enemy, but as a quiet voice that says, maybe you should wait, maybe you're not ready. maybe it's not the right time, and in listening you think you're being wise, when in truth you're being wrapped in a comfort that quietly suffocates your becoming. It never shouts, it never argues, it never throws things to the ground because self-sabotage has learned to wear your tone. It has memorized your rhythm, it knows that if it whispers like you and thinks like you and walks like you, then you will trust it without question, even as it gently guides you away from your own path. You make a plan and then you change it. You have a dream and then you doubt it. You start a habit and then you break it. And each time you tell yourself a story about how life got in the way, or people didn't support you, or circumstances weren't right. But if you look closely, you will see that the knife in your back has your own fingerprints on it. It comes in the form of delay of perfectionism, of scrolling through other people's lives instead of living your own. It hides behind productivity that never moves forward and planning that never becomes action and excuses dressed in such clever words that even your own heart believes. The saddest part is not that self-sabotage stops you, but that it convinces you that you are making the right decision while it builds a quiet wall around your potential and paints it with the colors of logic and paints it with the words of fear and paints it with the words of fear and paints it with your own need to avoid discomfort. Calls it home. You do not fail because you tried and lost, you fail because you never started, or because you started and didn't believe, or because you believed and then let the old version of you speak louder than the new one, who was just beginning to rise, and so again and again the cycle repeats, not because life is cruel, but because you keep handing the wheel back to the version of you who only knows how to drive in circles. It is not that you are not capable. It is not that you are not deserving, it is simply that a part of you is still addicted to who you used to be. And so every time you reach for something greater, that old part wakes up frightened and pulls you back into the space where nothing changes but everything feels familiar and safe and slowly dying. And the only way out is not through force or guilt, but through noticing the moment you begin to shrink and calling it by name and standing in the middle of that fear and saying clearly with your whole being, not. This time, not again and not anymore, because I know now that the enemy is not out there, enemy has always lived within the boundaries of my own permission. You cannot change what you cannot see, and you will not see what you are unwilling to look at. Because awareness does not come like lightning or thunder, it does not shout or tear through the sky. It comes like a soft light, slowly entering a dark room and revealing the dust on the shelves, the cracks in the walls, the things you've been living with but never questioning. Most people walk through life not living but sleepwalking, moving through the same thoughts, the same habits, the same reactions day after day, thinking this is who I am. When in truth they have simply stopped noticing who they have become, and in that lack of noticing, they become prisoners of their own and examine cycles. To be aware is not to fix or force or fight. It is to watch without flinching, to see your anger without justifying it, your jealousy without hiding it, your fear without dressing it in logic, your sadness without wrapping it in blame, and to sit in that seeing long enough for the truth beneath that action to rise. It is a strange thing that the more you see yourself clearly, the less harsh you become, because real awareness does not come with judgment, it comes with stillness, with space, with a kind of silence that says, this is me, this is where I am, and this is what I have been carrying without knowing I was so carrying it. You begin to notice how your words shape your day, how your tone shifts when you're afraid, how you shrink when someone disapproves, how you delay when something matters, and you realize none of these things are accidents, they are patterns, they are programs running silently in the background, and the moment you see them, they begin to lose power. Awareness does not mean you never fall. It means you now know what the ground feels like and how you got there and what pulled you down. And because you know that you fall differently, next time with less confusion, more grace, and slowly the same mistakes, stop repeating, because the one who kept repeating them is no longer asleep. You cannot force transformation through willpower alone, because willpower is the tool of the conscious mind, and the conscious mind is only a tiny flame. But awareness is like the sun, it lights up the unconscious, it reveals what was hidden, and once you have truly seen something about yourself, cannot unsee it, and that seeing becomes your freedom. So the first step is not doing more or being better. It is simply seeing clearly, without distortion, without denial, without rushing to change, and in that gentle but unshakable seeing, you take your first true step toward liberation. Because what you are willing to face, you are finally able to change. There will always be days when you don't feel like it, when the body is tired and the mind is noisy, and the heart is heavy and the world seems far too large to hold your small efforts. But discipline is the choice to stand up anyway, to move forward, anyway to act, not because it feels good, but because it is needed. Emotion is like weather, it comes and goes, it changes with the hour. It floods you or dries you out without warning. And if you let emotion be the captain of your ship, you will spend your whole life tossed between waves of inspiration and waves of despair, never reaching the shore of anything real or lasting. Discipline is not rigid, it is not punishment, it is not about forcing or controlling it. It is about remembering what matters even when your feelings have forgotten. It is about keeping your word to yourself even when motivation has walked out the door and closed it softly behind. You do not need to feel ready to begin. You do not need to feel confident to continue. You do not need to feel inspired to finish because discipline is the fire that burns in silence. It does not wait for the right mood, it creates the right movement, and through that movement, even the darkest fog begins to lift. It is easy to start when you're excited, but the real growth begins when the excitement has died and you choose to stay anyway, when the applause is gone and you keep working when no one sees and you still give your best, because your path is no longer about what you feel in the moment, but who you are becoming over time. There is a part of you that wants comfort and there is a part of you that wants greatness and they are rarely aligned in the same hour. So you must choose again and again which part to feed, which part to strengthen. And every time you choose discipline over emotion, you cast a vote for the version of effort or version of that lives beyond excuses. Your emotions are sacred messengers. Yes, but they are not meant to build your life for you. They are meant to be honored and understood, not obeyed blindly. And the more you can sit with them without being swallowed by them, the more you will see that they are not walls, they are waves and you can through them with steady feet. Let the emotions rise and fall, let them scream and plead, let them do whatever they must, but let your discipline stay seated in the center, like a mountain unmoved by the passing storm. Because in that stillness, in that quiet repetition of effort, you will carve a life no emotion can ever undo. There is a version of you that is comfortable in your chaos, that knows how to survive in confusion, that wears your wounds like a second skin and calls it personality. In this version of you, it is not broken, it is simply familiar. And because it is familiar, it feels safe even though it keeps you circling the same pain again and again. You keep wondering why things don't change, why every beginning feels like the last one, why your progress comes in waves that crash instead of carry. But the truth is that transformation is not a step forward, it is a death. And the old you must die for the new one to breathe. And that death is what exists without even knowing it. The old you is built from patterns and fears and identities you didn't choose, but learned from survival, and the cycle will keep spinning until you become so tired of your own repetition that silence feels louder than noise and staying the same feels heavier than becoming someone new. You must understand that nothing will change until you become deeply unwilling to continue betraying your own growth, until you stop telling the story that this is just who I am and start asking the question, who could I become if I stopped repeating what no longer belongs to me? This breaking is not that dramatic, it is not always a grand decision sometimes. It is as quiet as saying no when you usually say yes, as subtle as breathing through discomfort. Instead of running from it, as honest as admitting, I am the one keeping me here and I am the one who must set me. The old you will fight this shift, it will whisper doubts, it will lure you with ease. It will tell you that you are not ready. You will come later, but that one day is now. And readiness is a myth, and if you wait for it, you will watch another year disappear into the mouth of your own delay. To break the cycle, you must become aware in the moment the pattern wants to repeat, and you must choose differently even if that choice feels unnatural. Even if your whole body says go back, because healing is not always peaceful, sometimes it is a war between who you have been and who you are willing to be. And when you choose to break instead of bend, when you choose to burn instead of hide, when you choose to rise instead of recycle the same old story, then slowly the old you will dissolve, not with rage or regret, but with quiet reverence, because you finally understood that growth is not becoming something new but remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget.